Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Signals from Mars. I welcome back Mr. Ed Ferguson to the show. Ed, how are you?
Still doing good.
Awesome. So we just finished recording another episode. It
And you had me back.
w-
Wow.
that's
That's
it.
great.
We talked a bunch before recording the first episode, and we had some standby topics just in case if we couldn't do the entire hour, and it turned out that we could without a problem. So we're back with
Yeah, I probably talked too much.
yeah. I was recently
Put
told
everybody to sleep.
that I don't communicate well. I would say that I probably over communicate as opposed to not communicating well, where I can talk for hours on end. But anyway,
Yeah, not communicating well could be one of my mottos probably for life. But that's why I connect with music so much. Just like
right.
so many people, it helps you express what you don't know how to say.
Yeah, absolutely. How many times have we copied lyrics to,
Mhm.
especially back in the day when you're exchanging?
Yeah. Yeah, to my parents, I'd paste them on the wall. Dear mother, dear father, from And Justice for All.
Yep.
Yeah, I put that one on the wall, cuss words and all. My mom wanted to have a talk about that. But speaking of Metallica,
Speaking of Metallica, James Hetfield recently talked about how a band that kind of jumped out at him was Category 7, a band that features John Bush from Armored Saint, formerly of Anthrax, on lead vocals. I've had John on the show a bunch of times. I can remember one of the only blabbermouth headlines that I've ever gotten. It said, John Bush says, it made no sense for me to join Metallica. It made all the sense in the world for me to join Anthrax. They took that out of the interview and they ran with it. Now, before we started recording earlier today, we had talked about how James had mentioned Category 7. The two songs that we've heard so far are beyond great. I mean, they're
yeah,
listen, and James' comments I don't think were to besmirch Armored Saint in any way, but this
oh
is
no,
completely different to Armored Saint. It isn't
yeah,
quite what he did in Anthrax either. It's pretty thrashy.
yeah,
Um, it features Phil Demmel of Violence and Machine Head on guitar. Features Michael Orlando, who's probably best known for Adrenaline Mob. Features Jack Gibson of Exodus on bass, and features Jason Bittner, currently in Overkill and also in Shadows Fall, on drums. So they're
yeah.
all pretty heavy hitters. My only issue is that they said initially that this was going to sound like Thin Lizzy. Uh,
No offense. Yeah, where'd they come up with that description?
yeah, I'm not sure either. But
But that first video that you posted, especially, was a great tune. The video was fun to watch. Just watching them have fun jamming.
mhm,
Yeah, good stuff.
yeah. So we ended up talking about how James brought up the fact that John Bush was the guy that they wanted in Metallica.
Yeah,
And you were unaware of the fact that for their Triple X shows to celebrate their 30th anniversary, that they did 4 nights at the Fillmore in San Francisco. They played
yeah. And I remember the stuff with Dave Mustaine,
right.
but I don't remember seeing stuff with John Bush.
Okay. So yes, so they ended up doing Four Horsemen with John Bush,
Yeah,
and I played you a little piece of that because when the site used to be called metallicalive.com. I'm not sure if it's just metallica.com now and you can just purchase the live songs, the live material. I purchased the Triple X shows and I
mm-hmm.
listened to the hell out of them.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically John Bush doing Four Horsemen with them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because one of the times that I've interviewed John, I think I've interviewed him 5 or 6 times at this point in time. I asked him, I said, this is one of the songs that Mustaine has always claimed was his. Obviously, Four Horsemen and Mechanics or Mechanics, however you want to pronounce it. Um,
Mhm.
he's always claimed to, well, he's always claimed it. No, he's got writing credit for it. So anyway, I asked John Bush, I said, were you asked to do this song because it would get them out of, kind of shit with Mustaine, or who chose it? And he said, no, this was all me. I've always loved that song and I wanted to do that one.
Mhm.
So now you've heard a small piece I played up to the chorus, more or less. And what are your immediate thoughts of hearing John Bush fronting Metallica?
I think he sounds great. And when I told you earlier that when you read that headline, I started thinking about what John's voice would sound like singing different Metallica songs. So I was going about getting ready for work and singing Master of Puppets in my head that replaced James with John, and started thinking, man, that would sound really good. And so I started in my mind listening to other songs with John, like Ride the Lightning, and just started realizing, and then I was thinking about if you replaced, Dave and Megadeth, what that would sound like. Basically the big four, thinking about all of them, and realizing that, John probably would have sounded best in Metallica.
Right.
I mean, his voice goes really well with Metallica's music. It's kind of James's style, but it has more character to it.
Mm-hmm.
A little more, maybe a little more bass or something there. And I'm forgetting my thought, what I was going to say after that. But yeah, I mean, I was going to say that he, being in Anthrax, even though he did some good records with them, that's a very different style of singing,
right,
from Joey. Yeah, but you could put him in Metallica and it would have just fit. It would have been a perfectly natural fit. And it makes you wonder what their career would have been like, if they had him playing or singing and James just doing the rhythm guitar.
Yeah, here's the other thing to consider that he brought up when I interviewed him. The dynamic of the band probably would have changed as well, because he would have written more of the lyrics. Maybe some of the songs wouldn't have been as popular because of the fact that you have a different lyricist. The content of what the songs were about could have changed radically. Imagine a song like, I don't know, Fade to Black, or For Whom the Bell Tolls, something like that, right off of Ride the Lightning. Let's say he comes in on Ride as they're writing it, and he starts saying that he wants his own lyrics, that he doesn't want to sing James's stuff. He wants to add his own lyrical material to those songs. That could have changed radically where the band went, how they recorded, what songs they came up with,
Yeah.
and
in my thoughts, everything is the same, just with John's voice.
right.
But yes, you're right. It would have been, different songs had they written those with him.
So here's something else to take into consideration. And this was something that, just so people know, this kind of came about, or no, it did come about because I mentioned this story on my Patreon podcast. And I mentioned, imagine having like a side project.
Yeah.
Or James and John do a side project now.
They should.
I mean, that's the first thing that I thought of when I heard Category 7 was, this is him doing what he's been wanting to do with Anthrax all these years. He's finally got players where he can go out and do those Anthrax songs live,
Mm-hmm.
plus do new material, kind of mix both in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then it made me think he's kind of spreading his wings and showing that he can still do some of this stuff, because when he was in Anthrax, he was doing the Joey era stuff as well.
Yeah.
We also know that he did that album called The Lesser of Two Evils, where it was all covers of Joey songs redone with him singing.
Mm-hmm. But you can also tell, even though he does those songs well,
Mm-hmm.
he's having to strain his voice in a different way, to try to kind of get that same melody or whatever that
Right.
Joey had. That kind of fits the song. Whereas when you hear him singing those Metallica songs, it's just very natural. Because, James is not a super dynamic singer.
Yeah.
And, a little bit on Injustice for All, but especially from the Black Album on, for me, listening to James gets kind of tiring after several songs, especially when he started throwing that "yeah" thing in over and over again on later on in the 90s. I think he's kind of gotten away from that, thankfully.
Mm-hmm.
But he can get a bit tiring to listen to for me, whereas I could listen to John much longer.
Yeah, I think, and the first thing that came to mind when rehearing them doing the Four Horsemen was how John's and James' voice complemented one another.
Yeah, they do.
And how I thought, hey, if they were ever to do an album together, it would be pretty interesting to see what they could
Sure
come
would.
up with.
That would sound damn good with their voices like that and James's, chops on the guitar.
Right.
Maybe throw Dave Lombardo in the background. We're going to have another Dream the Band Up episode here.
Who's on bass?
I'm trying to figure that out. I'll have to get back to you on that.
Would you throw Tom Araya in there to have a third voice?
No, I don't think they would need any more voice.
Okay.
They sounded good enough in that video by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would sound good.
So all right. So how about this? Well, could an Ellefson be brought into something like that, or is he still?
Yeah, I was going to maybe mention him because he can lock in with that kind of music just fine. Because he's got those Megadeth chops. Megadeth has that kind of helicopter sounding thrash groove. And that's what Dave Lombardo's got that kind of groove in his playing as well. And James has got the right-hand chops to keep up with anything that's thrown at him, it seems. Although, he has been talking about getting older and not being able to play as well, which I can understand, getting older myself. Those right-hand chops go away really fast if you're not doing it all the time.
Right. Who would be this? Well, would you bring in a second guitarist?
Only maybe for lead purposes.
Okay.
But I think, if they needed 2 tracks of guitars, I think James could do both. Maybe invite someone to do a little lead playing.
Okay, so who would you bring in to do the lead?
Kiko, maybe.
Okay.
Since, he's got some time.
Okay. So let's think of one step forward here. So they're going to do shows live now, and they'll play some of their originals that they've written and recorded together, and they're also going to play some songs from each of the members of the band's other bands. What songs do you want to hear this band do live? What Metallica songs would you like to hear them do live?
Well, definitely the thrashier tunes. So you'd be dipping back into Kill 'Em All, and probably some of the deeper tracks of Kill 'Em All and Ride the Lightning. Like Trapped Under Ice or um, Damage Inc. Some of those things where they can really jam away for us. Well, that's a good question. I could think on that one for a long time.
What we've got Ellison.
What are you thinking?
What's my thinking? Okay, from Metallica standpoint,
From Metallica.
Yeah, I mean, we've heard him do Four Horsemen. I mean, that would sound ridiculous. I would love to hear him hear them do the title track off of Ride the Lightning.
Yeah. John Bush would sound good doing Master of Puppets. His voice would. That would be a good track.
No doubt.
Even though we've heard it 1,000 times.
Right. What about, we have Ellison in there. What Megadeth songs do you want to hear John Bush sing?
I like maybe The Conjuring.
Oh, wow.
A little Black Friday. A little Good Morning Black Friday.
Mm-hmm.
I love Bad Omen too. I know a lot of people don't like that as much as me, but I would love to hear it. What's the last track off of that album? I'm forgetting. And, some Rest in Peace songs might be good from them too. You like Take No Prisoners?
Yeah.
Maybe Kiko doing a little Lucretia for us. I mean, there'd be a lot of the Megadeth stuff that would fit a band like that really well. Old and new. Like Head Crusher even. Stuff like that. That's a fun song to play, by the way. Head Crusher. Great jam.
That surprises me that you would say that.
Yeah.
My Last Words is the last track.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of sad. I'm starting to get to the age where I'm even forgetting all those AC/DC facts I could just fire off at any moment that anybody asks me a question, It's just things are fading away up there. But I remember the sounds.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Megadeth for me. Man, I'm surprised you said Head Crusher, but there's some stuff like man, I've always loved Ashes in Your Mouth. Hearing John Bush sing that would be ridiculous.
Yeah, he'd be good with a lot of Countdown songs.
Yeah.
I would have liked Countdown better if John had probably sang on there.
There you go.
I know I would have liked Euthanasia and Cryptic Writings better. Risk is not even you can't even call that a Megadeth record.
Yeah, that's
so we'll just skip over that one.
Such a weird album that for whatever reason I've never understood why whenever Risk is brought up, a lot of people will say, well, Metallica released Saint Anger. And I always thought, well, one really has nothing to do with the other.
Yeah, give me Saint Anger any day.
Yeah, for Saint Anger's shortcomings, it still has 3 or 4 good songs.
That's right.
Yeah, whether
I like
not is another story, but
yeah, I like the song Breadline. It's got a nice melody.
Okay,
it's a good song for any rock band to play. But yeah, stuff like Crush 'Em is just kind of embarrassing coming from your old thrash metal bands.
Yeah. Oh, okay. You said Head Crusher before.
That's right, from like 2013,
yes.
2010 maybe.
And you know what I did? You know why I thought it was surprising? Because I thought you said Crush 'Em, not Head Crusher.
Okay, well that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So that's why I was like, wow.
I'm glad you cleared that up for the audience.
Yeah, because I was thinking, wow, that took an interesting turn of
Yeah, you're ready to check my metal card there, weren't you?
yeah. All right. So let's see. What Slayer songs would you want to hear John Bush sing?
Probably stuff off of South of Heaven. I love that album. For some of the slower tracks, he would sound good on that. Um, I don't know. When it comes to Slayer, I can't hardly get myself to imagine anybody but Tom. So it's even hard for me to think of that one. As soon as I think about that, I just move on to the next band. But there'd be a lot of good Anthrax tunes though, from both Joey's and John's years that
Yeah.
Category 7 could do really well.
Yeah.
They could maybe even make them sound better than a lot of those Anthrax productions, I think.
Could very well be.
Yeah, that's what they need to put on their B-sides or some Anthrax cover tunes.
I wonder if Anthrax would allow them to do that.
That'd be nice. They're probably not. I don't know. Well, look at all Anthrax has done that for themselves so often. Why not?
Yeah,
Let someone do it for Anthrax now.
I mean, I have heard Anthrax covers over the years. So I mean, it wouldn't be anything new. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I think that Category 7 is going to be a big kind of litmus test for where John Bush goes. If this album is just really, really good and a lot of metal fans get behind it and they do any sort of touring with it, given Anthrax in 2024, where you have Scott playing with Mr. Bungle, you have Charlie playing with Pantera, Frank playing with Satyricon, would it be out of the ordinary for them to do shows with John Bush?
Yeah, no.
20
I
years.
definitely want to see that if they came through here.
Would they call it Anthrax though, or would they call it something else?
Oh, something else. All right, I'm thinking if Category 7 came through here, I'd want to see that. But
Okay.
yeah, but yeah, that's a good question. Would they call that Anthrax or not?
I mean, I think it would be easy. They could probably call the band Sound of White Noise or something like
Exactly.
that.
That's a better way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and this gets back to John Bush being the flexible singer that he is, the powerhouse singer that he is. Because if that wasn't there, we wouldn't be coming up with these dream scenarios.
That's right. Yeah.
Of trying to figure out what who we could slot in with and who we could put around him. Is there any other singer that you could think of that would instantly give you that kind of connection with the James Hetfield to say, hey, I'd love to see this combination work together?
I'm sure there is, but now that you're asking me, I'm not going to be able to think of, remember what I've thought of.
I think for me the one, and just because I'm a huge fan, and although they kind of have worked together again when they did the Tuesday's Gone cover that features Jerry Cantrell on it, I would think a real interesting album would be Cantrell and Hetfield as well. It wouldn't necessarily have to be a metal album. It could be an acoustic album. It could be a straight up rock album where, I mean, even if you pair those three together, I mean, kind of, and I'm thinking in the way of like the band Killer Be Killed, where you have three distinct vocalists in there. You have Max Cavalera, you have Troy Sanders from Mastodon, you have Greg Puciato, who used to sing in the Dillinger Escape Plan.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm thinking of a mix between Anthrax's Black Lodge with some of the like more haunting, creepy type Alice in Chains,
Yeah.
with James adding his spin to it, and his voice can be pretty haunting and like
Mm-hmm.
pretty emotional at times as well.
It can, yeah.
I mean, having all of that together in there, that would be really interesting as well.
It sure would. Yeah, hopefully he can do some things like that as he gets older and Metallica starts to fade away. Maybe he can do some other projects that would be interesting.
Yeah, that's another thing that's kind of interesting. They're not getting any younger. Yes, I know that 3 of the 4 guys that have been there since the first album are still there.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone bitches about Lars, but Lars seems to still be in good shape.
Mm-hmm.
How long can they continue to go? I mean, but also Kirk has recently come out saying that they don't play enough. They're playing twice a
I
week
saw
now.
that today.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're playing twice a week, so they're doing that so that they can extend their touring for a long period of time. They
Right.
go for like 4 or 5 months and then take 6 weeks off.
Mm-hmm.
Then they head out and do another leg. But at the same time, these legs of tours that they're doing, they're just doing Friday, Sunday shows or Saturday, Monday shows. And
Right.
and it's helping with, I think, the longevity of the band. And yeah, they probably could play more shows, but I think James' voice wouldn't be as good. I think Lars's
Mm-hmm.
playing wouldn't be as good. And I think this
No,
just
you get worn out. Yeah.
yeah. So I think they've always been a step ahead of so many bands. And I think they're
Mm-hmm.
proving it with this as well. It's helping tack on years, tack on longevity, and maybe they get to a point where they say, no more, or they say,
Yeah.
hey, we're going to go away for 5 years, and in the meantime, we're each going to work on different things.
That's right. Yeah, and just too, because I'm already dealing with it. Your muscles just don't snap back the next day. You
Right.
can have you can be really on fire one night, but it's not like it was when you were a kid and you wake up the next day and just do it all over again.
Right.
You're probably dealing with a lot of pain, and your muscles, your fingers are locked up, your wrist hurt, and you have to go and spend a bunch of time warming up to get back to where you can play like you did the night before.
Right.
That takes time and discipline. Yeah, it's just things are different. I miss my young hands.
Yeah. Let's see. Real quickly here. Let's see how old John Bush is. John Bush is 60.
Yeah. And the voice too, yeah, as they get older, it's going to go away too for most people.
Hetfield is 60 as well. Lars is 60. Wow, Kirk is older than them.
Is he?
He's 61.
Okay.
And he'll be 62 this year. Robert Trujillo is the youngest. He'll be 60 in October.
Okay.
Let's see. So Kirk will be 62. Lars will be 61 this year. James will be 61 in 2 months. Wow. James and John Bush are born 21 days apart. They're born 3 weeks apart.
Okay.
So that's amazing.
Yeah, it's good to see they're still going.
Absolutely. I mean, who would have thought of when when we were whatever, when we started listening to a lot of these bands, that these bands would still be going now.
I know.
We grew up in an age where "Hope I Die Before I Get Old" was a very prominent lyric on the radio,
Yeah.
and it's better to burn out than to fade away, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So to all
All
these,
these people are the age of our grandparents when we were that age,
exactly.
And but my grandparents looked way older than everybody does now at that age.
Well, I think they also didn't have the money that these people have to
Mm-hmm.
continue to stay young.
That's right.
That has a lot to do with it as well. I mean, let's be honest, they're on a different playing field than we are. When we talk about James's playing or other people's health, they're flying around and they have masseuses and they have
Yeah.
people that are specialize in acupuncture and shiatsu and all this stuff to keep them young and limber. So
Yeah.
their 60 isn't going to be our 60.
That's right. they're they're having it nice.
Absolutely. They definitely are.
Way different than they started off when they were singing all those angry songs about being poor and having nothing to do except rock and roll.
It is very true. And that's actually why Dee Snider said way back when that he had a hard time writing lyrics.
That's right.
Because, he had 5 Ferraris, 5 houses, and a bunch of kids, and life was good, so he couldn't write rebellious lyrics anymore.
Yeah, that is a funny, ironic thing. That's life for you.
It is. It is very, very much that way.
It feels better though to have the money than not. I think we'd all agree to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Makes things easier. So, any other scenario you can think of like this?
Of other bands
Yeah.
full of members like that?
Yes.
Yeah. But it would probably just kind of be in the thrash world, taking different players that I like
Okay.
and know how they play. You can come up with quite a few different bands. All those players are so good.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, that's another thing. I probably thought of bands, but I wouldn't be able to think of anything right away.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I've always wanted to hear. I enjoyed Carrie playing with Gary Holt, and was kind of hoping they continue to do something with Dave Lombardo. There were rumors about that in the past, before Carrie went on to do his other solo thing. But that stuff like that. Of course, Dave Mustaine playing with different people is always good.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know, man.
Yeah, Dave did do a side project at one point. He did do that MD45 album, which originally had Leaving from Fear on vocals. Had Jimmy
He
DeGrasse.
did something with Dan Spitz once.
What was that?
He did something with Dan Spitz once, an album called Red Lamb.
Red Lamb.
That sounded good.
He produced that. He played on some tracks. I don't know that he played on all of them. I know Nickel McBrain appears on that as well.
Yeah, that was a good album. I'd like to find a copy of that.
Yeah, I was close to interviewing him when that album came out. and never ended up happening with Dan Spitz.
That I'd love to hear an interview from Dan if we ever could.
Yeah,
I always liked him. He was one of my favorites back then.
I think he's got so much money right now that he doesn't need to do anything related to music and doesn't have the time or patience.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, hopefully he'll just want to talk about the old times someday, and he'll share it with us.
Yeah, we'd welcome him here without any problems at all.
That's right.
It's close to happening once. It was close to happening, and then something happened where it just didn't line up.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently he used to do, I asked to interview him in the middle of the afternoon, and I was told that he was doing a sound check at that time. I'm thinking,
okay,
at 4:00 in the afternoon, he's doing a sound check for an 8 p.m. show. That kind of doesn't make sense to me, but okay.
Right.
So, yeah, and I was trying to think if Dan was part of that Anthrax documentary that came out a few years back, and he was, because he showed off the whole watchmaking and repairing techniques.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a different job.
Yeah, it's amazing when some people leave the music industry what they get themselves into.
Yeah, that is always interesting.
Yeah. So very cool. John Bush, again, one of my favorite people to interview. Armored Saint. I think they're going to be playing some dates in Europe over the summer. They just did a run with Queensryche, and I would imagine that they would be doing more shows at some point in the fall. It's interesting because they stopped touring as heavily because they all, not all of them, but the various members ended up having kids. And now a lot of those kids are now graduating high school. And, the station in life that they're in isn't the same as it once was. So it seems like they're more willing to go out to tour. So with the advent of this Category 7 album, maybe it also helps once again bring other projects to fruition, and we get to see them not only live, but we get to hear some new music from them as well.
That's right. Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. Very cool. So this has been an awesome discussion with you, sir.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. It's always fun to talk.
Sorry for not being able to think of scenarios there for you at the end.
That's fine. That's fine. I mean, what we were doing, we were talking about before recording the other show was focused around John Bush and Metallica. So it's cool that we were able to get a good discussion out of this. And I do encourage anyone that's watching or listening to this to send us your comments. Maybe there are other combinations that you would be interested in seeing. We'd be all ears to hear about them and think, and contemplate what you guys think would work and see what
that would be cool.
Would be cool. Yeah. So feel free to send your comments. On that note, we're going to wrap this episode up. Want to thank Ed for joining me once again. And we will see you guys the next time right here on Signals from Mars. See you, folks.
Thank you for watching the Signals from Mars live stream. You can watch the show live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch, or check out replays on YouTube. Go to signalsfrommars.com for more information. This concludes our show.